Christine Todd Whitman is a former EPA administrator. She held the post under Republican President George W. Bush. Governor Whitman, thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be with you.
Well, let's just get straight to it. President Trump said the Clean Power Plan is, boom, gone. But is it really that simple? Is the plan, do you believe, officially now repealed?
No, and that's the good news of all of this. It takes a long time. They have to propose an opposing rule. They have to justify why the science behind the original rule is no longer relevant. And they have to answer all the questions that they're going to get, because you put it out there as a next proposed rule and you get comments, and you have to answer every one of those. And of course, this is going to be in court for a long time. So it's not a boom, done. But unfortunately, what can happen is a slowing down of the process of implementation and enforcement of the regulations they already have in place. And that's what we've been seeing this administration do right along anyway.
Yes, I was going to say, as we've often seen with this administration, they've made very big moves, but in reality, what it's done is it's kind of incrementally changed things on the ground. So let's turn then to another Scott Pruitt promise. The war against coal, he says, is over. Do you think that will actually do anything to revive the coal industry?
No. And the sad thing is that this is a bait and switch for the people who live in the coal-producing countries in Kentucky and West Virginia, because coal is dying not because of environmental regulations so much as because of the low cost of natural gas. And so to say that you're going to bring back coal, beautiful coal, as the president called it, is just wrong. It's not going to happen. The companies are already moving on. They're creating jobs in other areas, and they're moving away from coal. But at the same time, this administration is rolling back regulations on water and allowing coal companies that are still producing to put their slurry right next to the rivers that are water sources for so many of the people who live in those areas. And those are pollutants. Those are going to hurt their health, and you're not bringing back, those kind of moves are not going to bring back coal. So I think it's a bait and switch, and I think it's very dangerous for the future.
We heard Secretary Clinton say unequivocally that there is a link between the horrible, ravaging wildfires we've seen in California and climate change. Do you agree with that?
Well, certainly scientists, while they used to say you won't say any one particular storm is due to climate change, they will say absolutely this is what you can expect. The kinds of hurricanes we have seen, the kinds of droughts that we have seen. But the really important thing here is just before this California wildfire, and that's going to add to the cost incrementally, and before really trying to restore Puerto Rico from what happened in the devastation there, from the 3 major hurricanes that we had already, and the some 76 fires in 9 states, it is what it's going to cost us to bring those back is over $300 billion. And if you put that in perspective, that's enough money to pay for 4 years in a public institution for every student that's currently in a public college or university. That's the kind of trade-off we're making, not to mention human health, which is, of course, paying an enormous price. There are 200,000 deaths in the United States every year from dirty airborne-related causes. All of these things are what EPA is designed to try to prevent and what are being rolled back and putting us in grave danger.
So realistically, what can we expect from this administration? Because even if they repeal the Clean Power Plan, of course, they still have a legal obligation to reduce carbon emissions.
Right, they do. The Supreme Court has reaffirmed that on multiple occasions. They have said that it's called an endangerment finding. What the agency, the Environmental Protection Agency, says something is bad for human health or the environment, and the Supreme Court has upheld that. And then the agency would have far preferred to have Congress act, but since Congress can't seem to act on anything that's the slightest bit controversial, they haven't. And then legally, the agency had to design these kinds of regulations. It was their legal requirement under the Clean Air Act. So we're still going to have these protections. What we're not going to see is enforcement, and that is really a tragedy for us and a tragedy for the world. I was just talking to someone in San Francisco, not in the paths of those fires, and the smoke is discernible there. The smoke is making things uncomfortable, and that just speaks to the fact that Mother Nature doesn't care about geopolitical boundaries, and what happens in one part of the world migrates, and so we all need to be concerned about these trends.
Lastly, I don't want to ask you to rate your successor, Scott Pruitt, but I do want to ask you, if you were still sitting in that chair, given the loss of life that we have seen from Mother Nature over the last few months, the devastation, what would you be looking to put in place?
Well, I'd certainly be looking to implement something along the Clean Power Plan lines. It was one
Rather
of the
than
most
repeal.
rather than repeal, because it was in fact one of the most open of regulations that the agency has ever done, in that it allowed states to reach the goals, the targets that were set in whatever way best worked for their economy. It wasn't just you have to shut down coal mines. They said if you want to put in more mass transit, and that would help you reduce your emissions, that's a way you could go. If you wanted to put a little more into nuclear or the renewables, that would be a way to go. Clean, if you wanted to put more money into clean coal technology, even though it's not clean, it's something, that was the way they could go. So this is one of the better rules that the agency, I think, as far as flexibility goes, that the agency has written. They worked hard at it. It was a long time coming, and we're not going to get anything better, frankly, than this. Can it be improved? Sure, every regulation can be improved and tweaked on the margins. But this wholesale rollback just speaks to what I think is almost an obsession that this administration has, that anything that had Obama's name anywhere near it is gone. Good, bad, or indifferent, not based on science, certainly as far as the EPA is concerned.
Governor Whitman, thank you so much for being on the program with us. Fascinating. Thank you.